Howdy old bean, it's Jules here. Have you had a fabulous children's story idea that you want to get out to a quadzillion potential readers? Then keep watching. I make videos on drawing, planning and publishing every Friday in the hope that my decades of knowledge might help someone out there. I write and illustrate children's picture books and have sold thousands across the world. And I know that there are lots of people out there who want to do the same thing because I meet you in my day-to-day life, quite often in very unusual circumstances. I've put together today a little guide as to how to get your book from being that idea that's buzzing around in your head to something that people are actually going to read. There are 7 key points, so you don't need to lose the will to live over this. It's not going to go on forever and ever. But here's a little tip. It's all about the quality of what you do. If you produce something that's, say, got loads of punctuation mistakes in it, it's got a pretty rubbish front cover and it's printed on really shabby paper, then chances are no one's really going to want to buy it. But if you produce something that you've done to the best of your ability, then you're much more likely to get noticed. There are 2 key strands to publishing a book. There is the creative side and there is the business side. So unless you want somebody to handle all those aspects of publishing a book, you're going to have to get to grips with both of these things. There are some pretty hefty pros at publishing your own book. Firstly, you have complete creative freedom. That means you can write about whatever you want to write about without running the risk of anybody else asking you to change your plotline or your character names or something else that's really integral that you think is really important to your story. Secondly, you have 100% ownership of the rights of your book. This means that nobody else is allowed to do anything with any aspects of your book without your knowledge and without your approval. And thirdly, you have a greater percentage of the royalties. Woohoo! That means typically with printed books, you could get up to 70% of the royalties rather than the 5% that you would get with traditional publishing. And again, up to 70% instead of the 25% with ebooks. That equates to quite a lot of wonga. If you've decided to indie publish, then you can either do it all yourself or you can employ people to assist with certain elements of it. I usually pay someone to proofread or sometimes edit my books, but as I did my degree in illustration, I'm lucky enough to be able to do that bit myself. You can also get a designer to help you with the cover as well as formatting the interior of the book. The process. Let's start with the first thing that you need to do. You need to have an idea and you need to write your first draft. Depending on the age range and the genre, this might be fully text, it might be text with some pictures, or it might be more image with a little bit of text, like in picture books, for example. I will leave a link in the description box below that gives you a little bit more information about this. Number 2, editing. This can be anything from rewriting your first draft, or you might be on your 3rd, 4th, or even 10th. Or it could be just proofreading for the final time before you send to print. This is the part that often takes the longest if you have mostly text in your book. Try to self-edit as much as possible because proofreaders and editors charge by the hour, so that just brings the cost down a little bit for you. Get your friends and family to have a look too. They might spot something. You can often go what I think of as word blind. When you write something, you swear blind you've written that particular thing, but then someone points out, nope, you've written something completely different. It might be just one word, it could be a phrase, but it's one of those things that somebody else might be able to spot that you can't. And there's a very good example of this that I have been put through myself. When I was writing Royal Fleas, I was on a really tight deadline and I had one tiny typo, a bit of a rookie error really, and I had to pulp all of those printed books that I produced because I couldn't bear sending it out with those 2 letters in the wrong place. It was very annoying and a bit costly. Number 3, design and formatting. You need to make this a pleasant experience for your reader, and that means your design and your formatting need to be good. If you want some advice on covers, then check out this video. But other than having a cover that is going to entice people to pick up your book in the first place, you need your interior to be fan-bleedin-tastic. The line justification, that means whether it's centered or to the left or to the right, that needs to be right. Your point size needs to be right. You don't want it too small or too big, and you don't want any hanging widows or orphans. And that means when you've got a line or a word that is separated from the main paragraph that it belongs to, perhaps it's gone on to the next page, for example. That's not a very nice reading experience for somebody. Remember, if you get this right, then your reader won't even notice. But if you get it wrong, they certainly will, and they might even put your book down and not bother reading it. Number 4 is the publishing itself. Indie publish either as a printed book or an ebook, or preferably both. Print on demand, or POD, means that you can upload your manuscript to a service like KDP and they will print a copy when somebody orders it. So this typically means someone will look on Amazon, see your book, order it, then KDP, who are affiliated, well, they're part of Amazon, they will print the book and send it directly out to your customer without it even passing through your hands at all. And this has pros and cons. Alternatively, you can have your book printed by somebody, a printer perhaps locally, perhaps the other side of the world, but you get a bunch of physical copies of your books. And this is good if you want to go to literary festivals or arts and crafts markets. You can sell it in bookshops, on your website, and keep at home if you want to give to family members or people in your community. For me, I do both. I purchase my own ISBNs so that I can sell anywhere I want to, and then quite often I make a second edition of that book and then sell it on Amazon so that they can print on demand for me. If you want further details, then check out the link in the description box below, which goes into much more detail about all the nuts and bolts of how to get this done. You can also publish as an ebook, but if you are publishing a picture book, then I refer you to my previous sentence of looking at that description box below, because there are some sort of ninja tips that I give about being able to do that really successfully. Number 5 is writing your blurb. What is blurb? It's that thing on the back cover. It's the equivalent of an elevator pitch. Imagine that you have got 20 seconds to tell somebody about your book. What is the most important thing that you need to tell them? You also need to have an author page. Now, I am going to make a video about both of these things in the new year, so subscribe and ding that bell next door to the subscribe button so that I can notify you when that video comes out. 5B, picking your keywords and having a subtitle. If you are definitely publishing through KDP and Amazon, you have the option to have a subtitle. Now, this is really useful and it's a great way to define your book and get it into the metadata. Let's say, for example, you are writing an exciting time-traveling story, but your title is The Elsa May Chronicles. So the title doesn't really tell us anything. But if you had a subtitle that says a time-traveling adventure, then that metadata will tell somebody who's either searching for time-traveling books for your age range or adventure books for your age range, then that will pop up on the feed. You do need to have those words, a time-traveling adventure, somewhere on the front cover, but it doesn't have to be sort of central and massive. It can just be like a little diagonal across the top. You do have to have that, otherwise Amazon will get a little bit sniffy about it. And I'll be making a video on keywords and titles in 2020. Number 6, marketing. The first rule of marketing is know who your target audience is. You should know the age range. You should know the sort of person that's going to be reading your book, and you should know the sort of person who's going to be buying your book. With children's books, it's quite different from adult books because it's not necessarily the child who will be parting with the cash, particularly for the younger age groups. You will need to know how to produce a press release. And guess what? Yep, I'm going to be doing a video on that next year. In the meantime, you can check out my press release guide, which is in the description below. And you can send your press release out to local newspapers, relevant magazines, your local radio or TV station if you have one. You can also announce your launch on social media. You can tell all your friends about it. You can tell all your workmates about it. Get it on your email list if you have one, and you really ought to have an email list. And you can make a little video for YouTube or Instagram. Number 7, how much is this going to cost me? Well, it's a little bit like saying how long is a piece of string, because it depends what you put into it. But let's imagine that you are doing this on a pretty tight budget. Here's the maths. So it's your time plus purchasing of any ISBNs, plus employing someone to, say, do your editing, plus any printed books that you want to buy. With print on demand, there is no upfront printing costs, but you might still need to pay for an editor or a designer, and the same with ebooks as well. Here's an example. Let's not count your time for the moment. Let's just count the physical costs of things. In the UK, 10 ISBNs currently cost £164, so that's £16.40 each. One ISBN is £16.40. Editing costs, let's say up to £60. Then you've got the costs of printing. For 100 copies, for a smallish book, 32 pages, let's call it £360. And that together all adds up to £436.40. Divide that by 100 and one copy is going to cost you £4.36. If your retail price is £6, then you have made £1.64 per copy. And by the time you've sold 100 copies, which probably won't take you that long, you've made £164. Woohoo! If you are doing a print on demand or an ebook, then you just need to take into account really your time and editing costs, that sort of thing, and then just sit back and watch the royalties roll in. In my experience though, picture books in particular are quite difficult to sell as print on demand, as people like to see them in the flesh. They like to look through them, feel them, and it's much more of a sort of sensual experience prior to the purchase. But that's just my experience at the moment. So there is my quick guide to indie publishing a children's book. If you're interested in giving it a go, then check out my programme, which I've linked in the description box below, which looks at all of these things in much more detail, including any decisions that you need to make before you even lift up a pencil or pen. That's things like page sizes, layouts, formatting, and lots more besides the actual elements of making up a picture. The introduction is free to look at, so go on over and have a gander. If there are any other elements of how to make a picture book that you would like me to cover in another video, then please drop me a comment below and I will add it to my ever-growing list of subjects that I need to talk to you about. I'll leave the link for my website as well if you want to have a look at my books and see how I do things. That's it for now. I am off to eat an entire box of gluten-free mince pies all by myself. Well, it is nearly Christmas. Don't forget to join me for next week's December bullet journal setup. I'll see you then. Nanu nanu!